Very good spaghetti. You like it? Like it a lot? So I actually like working on cars. There was a period of time, 2006 to 2013, when I was an outboard engine mechanic and worked on yachts. That was fun work. I miss it. I miss being able to get out in the sun. Now, the fact is, I grew up thinking that there was potential for me to become a mechanic. My grandfather ran an auto shop since, gosh, I think the 60s. And then my uncle ran that shop, and now my cousin runs that shop. And I like turning wrenches. I enjoy the work. It's not what I do every day, but it is fun. So from the When It Rains It Pours department, last weekend I got to replace the water pump on my car, and today I get to replace the PCV valve on Brooke's car. The Chinese knockoff part looks sort of like this, and the offending culprit that causes rough idle and a weird whistle when you're going down the road is sitting right there, but it's fused to the valve cover. So do I replace the $17 part and give it a shot before replacing the $300 valve cover and half my day getting that off of the engine? Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and give the cheap route a try. Please work. Please work. So that took about 10 minutes to get off, and yeah, had to use a heat gun to loosen up the adhesive. And this isn't, you know, I know you don't care about this car, but I'm getting to a point here. And this is the PCV valve, the offender. It just gets brittle and this rubber cracks like the surround on a speaker. And the PCV valve, positive crankcase ventilator or ventilation valve, it is supposed to keep the pressure inside the engine block regulated, and when it doesn't, it, in the case of this car, contributed to a very rough idle and a whistle that was probably coming out of either the air intake over here or one of the rear or front crankcase seals. So yeah, kind of annoying, but also unsafe. Last weekend we were riding down Altama Avenue in Brunswick, and the car just decided to shut off. So we, thankfully, during COVID-19, Brooke isn't driving anywhere. So we parked this guy and we ordered the part. Time to fix it. So hopefully with this 90-minute seal and this new part in place, we can have a more reliable car. All right, let's get back to it. So that's it. So now we come back in an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, and see if we still have a rough idle, but tidied up other than all of the leaves. All right, moment of truth. It's been a couple hours. Let's see if this thing starts up and idles well. No! No whistle, no whistle, no whammy. Huh. So far, so good. Starting to sound better. We're good. So our community has been wrestling with the very progressive justice towards the pair of men that, I'm not trying to draw any conclusions, but it sounds like they took matters into their own hands, and it led to the loss of a 25-year-old fellow named Ahmaud Arbery. And I didn't think that I was going to have much of an opinion in this situation, because I know very little about the law, and I know even less about police work. So I have no idea, aside from all of the commentary that I've been seeing on social media, what led to the outcome of his arrest. I'm sorry, of their arrest. And then there's a third fellow that had shot a video. And I'll tell you, the thing that's interesting to me is we're in the Bible Belt, Brunswick, Georgia, Glenn County, and this area, especially in the Bible Belt, has a long history of celebrating testimonies. Especially, I grew up in Baptist church and Methodist church, and it's part of your progression as a Christian to be able to reveal that redemption story, and share your testimony, and share where you came from. And I have a testimony. Everybody has a testimony. Ahmaud had a testimony. It's disappointing to me that there's a lot of attention being put towards his past now, and he will not have a redemption story. There's no way to get past that. So his past is his past. There will be no future. So that testimony, the ability for him to have his story redeemed, has been stripped away. So let me share with you a little bit about my testimony. I grew up in a law enforcement household. My mom was a Glenn County police officer, and went into the, following my father's death, went into the Federal Bureau of Prisons. I no use telling you the whole track record here, but the point I would like to make is that my mom had a career in law enforcement. She retired after working at the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center, after working for the Department of Justice, the Department of the Navy. She spent a few years in Afghanistan, helping set up the state police there. So the interesting part about that, the reason I even bother to mention that my mom was in law enforcement, is because I decided that I was going to be a juvenile delinquent in high school. So I developed a friend group. Perhaps I was the bad influence, perhaps I was just far too negatively influenced, but I had a drug habit, and was homeless for a period of time. Was somewhat, I will say, on account of my family moving to DC, and I stayed in Macon. I was independent at 16 and a half, which I've turned out okay. But if you knew what I went through, you would be quite surprised that I'm not, yeah, let's just say I've been quite blessed. But part of that rebellion was likely the result of being sexually abused by a family member when I was a child, from the age of 6, and went through counseling for that, went through drug and alcohol rehab as a teenager, but then went on, actually won an engineering scholarship to Mercer, but went into the Army instead because I just had to get out of Macon. Step away from the things that were being a too negative of an influence in my life. Had been on probation for property damage, played mailbox baseball, got busted for that, broke into some houses and some cars. Not things that you would expect from me. Had possession of firearms as a 15-year-old, carried a gun to school. Not proud of any of those things, but the reason I mention it is because at some period, my my life started heading in the appropriate direction, and now at 43, I'm very blessed. I can't tell you how happy I am to have the home life that I do. But things could be totally different. So my final thoughts. I want to make it clear that I in no way support the actions of what these two men did, and I join others in our community and those outside of it at this point that are now asking for justice to be swiftly served. And to the third guy, please consider the quote from Sir Edmund Burke: "The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to stand by and do nothing." How many of us need to begin to intercede to help others to come to their defense instead of just watching what goes down or even just filming it? How many of us have become more sensitive to our deeply hidden prejudice through this heinous act? Many people loved me enough to save me from myself. If my story had been cut short like Ahmaud's has, you may only know me by my sins. I hope to join others in redeeming Ahmaud's story. The rallying cry right now is "I run with Maud," but I say I am Maud. Let's talk some more next week. Bye for now.